So I got to laugh. What's that guy, Kiyosaki? Robert Kiyosaki? Dude never did much for me. I know a lot of people love that guy. I just find it funny. So Kiyosaki says your house is not an asset because it doesn't generate cash flow. And yet apparently he's a proponent of gold and Bitcoin. And I just, I mean, we are dealing with a level of absurdity that boggles the mind. Gold and Bitcoin are assets. Your house is not. Think about the level of idiocy that is, my friends. Your house provides you with shelter. You need shelter. Good food, clean water, shelter. That's what Jennifer Daniels says is the top 3 things to get your body in good working condition. Good food, clean water, and shelter. All right, so you get those 3 things, you are starting off the right foot. Thus, you need shelter. How do you get shelter? You either rent or you own. One of those only 2 things. You rent it, outflow of cash every single month. And in this day and age, rent don't look good, does it? Because the rents are firing up through the roof. Where your mortgage, your payment is flat if you got a mortgage. Hopefully you don't have any mortgage, which is what I'm working on. All right, so Kiyosaki says house is not an asset, but inherently is. And I've talked about imputed income a million times on Sunday, but I'll just talk about it again. Imputed income simply means the amount of money I derive from my home for which I don't need to generate cash flow to pay rent. So, if an equivalent house is $2,500 a month to rent, right? And I have my house paid off, I still got $500 a month in escrow. That means that's $24,000 in imputed income my house is providing me. $24,000 I don't need to make as cash in which to pay the rent. $24,000 I don't need to pay FICA tax on. $24,000 I don't need to pay state income tax and federal income tax. So when you factor all those things, we'll just say that's 15% on $25,000. We'll just say $28,000. Thus, my imputed income by having a house that is $28,000. An asset that pays $28,000, according to Kiyosaki, this might look, and I'm ignorant of him because he just never did anything for me, is an asset that pays $28,000 to you as a cash flow is an asset. Thus, a paid off home is an asset. To say otherwise is freaking stupid. I'm sorry. All right, so I have a house that's paid for. I have an asset. Because it provides me with shelter, it means I don't have to have the cash flow in order to pay for said shelter, especially when it's paid off. All right, I get it. A house with a mortgage is liability for sure, but then you still have to look at it, your mortgage payment versus the equivalent cost of rent. And then you have to say the imputed income is the difference between there. So if the equivalent cost of rent is $2,500 and my mortgage all included is $2,000, my imputed income from owing, but still owning my house via mortgage is $6,000 a year, because it cost me $30,000 to pay for my rent, and it cost me $24,000 to pay for my mortgage. Thus, I mean $6,000 I don't need to generate in order to live in the equivalent of my house. Now, with that said, it's not quite apples to apples. Lots of studies that says when people rent, they usually rent smaller than people who buy. So instead of a 4-bed, 3-bath, you might have a 3-2. Well, okay, so, and some of that has to be said because you're literally paying your mortgage over 30 years. And so it's, you know, for like every $1,000, it costs an extra $7 a month or something like that. It's kind of what the salespeople say. So you're like, all right. So you didn't really want to buy a 4-bed, 3-bath house, but you're like, man, for an extra $500 a month, I'll buy it. So you got to look at that too. But anyway, you get where I'm going with this. Now, what do both gold and Bitcoin not do? What do gold and Bitcoin not do? They provide you no income. Nothing. There's no income there. There's no carrying costs. You know, tiny. I mean, I grant you. I hate this, like, oh, it costs money to store, whatever. You know, it costs money to hold your wallet for Bitcoin, whatever. It's just stupid. But there's no income off gold and Bitcoin. All right, so what does that mean? It can't be an asset, right? Because it provides you no income. The only benefit you would get is what's called the greater fool theory, i.e., I can sell it at a higher price to someone than what I paid for it. Now, you might be chagrined by me calling it the greater fool theory, but that's what it is. The only consideration is what you can sell it for. There's no dividend. It's not, I mean, gold you can trade, I grant you, but how do you really trade gold? I mean, think about it. If I give you a gold ounce coin, and the spot price is $1,900, are you going to give me $1,900 worth of product? No, you're not. You're not going to do it because gold doesn't trade it's not trading like a typical active currency. There's not a lot of velocity to gold, all right? So very few people are going to pay or going to give you $1,900 worth of product, even though the spot price for an ounce of gold is $1,900. Just inherently makes sense. So gold actually doesn't carry the trading value as it does the spot price. It just doesn't. Bitcoin is not, I've said this since day one. You either invest in Bitcoin, you either speculate in Bitcoin for one of two reasons. Because you think it's going to go up in value, all right, that's speculation. Nothing inherently wrong with that, but don't call it investing, it's pure speculation. Could you say a growth stock is speculation because you think it's going to go up in value? Sure, but a growth stock that you're investing in, if it has earnings, you're speculating on something that's hard currency. It actually makes money. A growth stock that doesn't have earnings, that's a different story. You're speculating that it will have earnings in the future, and that is definitely speculating for sure. But if you're investing in a growth stock with positive cash flow, you're willing to pay a premium for the cash flow. That's the idea, because you think at some point the cash flow will make that premium worth the price. That's speculation, but not quite the same with Bitcoin. No earnings of Bitcoin. You're certainly not using it as a currency. I mean, look, what are you going to, I mean, just think about it. Let's see, we had Bitcoin, I don't know, $10,000. Well, who's the guy, I did a video on this a couple months ago. A guy bought a pizza or a couple pizzas for four Bitcoins in like 2015 or something like that. Those are the most expensive pizzas ever known to mankind now. Of course, those pizzas were 4 Bitcoin at 66,000, whatever that is, $350,000 worth of pizza. Then now they're down to 40,000, so now they're 160,000 worth of pizza. No one's going to trade a currency with that kind of volatility because it doesn't make any sense. I'm going to buy some pizza for you from 4 Bitcoin. You're going to be like, nah, I'm not doing that. Simply because it could go from 40 to 60 to 100 to 5 billion. So there has no asset value because it's not paying you any income whatsoever. It's pure speculation. Gold, pure speculation. Now, gold at least has a value from historical numbers. In fact, gold has value even more than that because it's you can break it up into pieces. I get all that stuff. It has a value in terms of the prettiness. It does have a history behind it. It's rare. I challenge all that. When it comes to actually putting food on the table, gold in and of itself, if that's the only currency, it's not the only currency, but when it comes to actually putting food on the table, I'll just take real good hard cash because that's the currency we use right now. In the future, you might want, I have gold. I'm not against gold whatsoever, but it's not an investment. And it certainly is an asset because I can still get a value out of it when I sell it. Even though it doesn't pay me any income, doesn't pay me any dividends, has a small carrying cost, which is literally just sitting in my safe box. You're not really supposed to hold gold in a treasury safe deposit box at the bank, by the way. So it's minimal carrying holding opportunity, but I have it. At some point, most likely I'd be able to trade gold for some kind of value, a chicken, a freaking piece of corn. Bitcoin, the only value is what other people are willing to pay. That's it. And so if you say that a house is not an asset, well, a house does give you something to live under. A house does provide that shelter that you need inherently. Bitcoin or any kind of crypto, there's nothing there other than what other people pay. And if other people say, Dutch tulip mania, we don't want this anymore, well, you're not going to be able to buy anything. They could say that gold too. So going to my thing here, Bitcoin and gold are the same exact thing, except gold does have a history where Bitcoin does not. Anyway, the idea that Bitcoin, you can't have both. You can't have a currency and an investment because a currency is velocity, it's changing hands. And inherently, Bitcoin is deflationary because people are not going to hold on to it, or they're not going to use it if they think the value is going to go up. So inherently, there's no velocity there. There isn't any. And velocity is what generates where you can buy and sell stuff. People say, no, I'm not going to buy that because the price of Bitcoin is going up, or the other price of goods are going down relative to Bitcoin. That's deflationary, so I'm going to hold on to it. I'm not going to buy your product. All right? That's not a currency. It's not. Just look at the Great Depression. The goods are going down in value. I need to hold my money because I don't know what the future looks like. And money is cash is king. So I'm going to hold on to it. Bitcoin doesn't do like that. Bitcoin says if I buy those pizzas today, all right, and the price of Bitcoin goes up, I'm going to look like an idiot. All right. The other guy says if I sell you my Tesla today and the price of Bitcoin drops to $20,000 from $40,000, right? Who won out there? I mean, that's just a fact. I lost because I only got Bitcoin. I sold you a Tesla for the cash equivalent of $40,000 in Bitcoin. Now my Bitcoin's only worth $20,000. No one's going to trade in Bitcoin simply because it's too volatile. And then they'll say, well, at some point it won't be so volatile. Russia gets involved. Okay. And what happens when it doesn't become so volatile? What happens to the price of Bitcoin? I don't understand, like smart people, I don't understand why they don't get this, man. It's weird. They always say, you don't know anything about it. You don't understand it. Of course I understand it. I don't care about the blockchain. I care about the actual level of value. And the facts are, if you're buying Bitcoin or any kind of cryptocurrency, you're doing so for one reason only. Future appreciation, which means what do you not do if you expect long-term growth? Is you don't sell it. You don't sell it. And if you're not selling it, inherently it's not trading like a currency. It's not a currency. The weirdest thing that people don't get this. And you say, okay, well, we'll become a currency. Okay, so what happens to your Bitcoin when it becomes a currency? You think the price stays just as high as it is and it keeps going up? You think that when Bitcoin becomes a currency, it will still continue to go up in value? Doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. When it starts trading more and more regularly, as a currency does, there's a higher velocity, the price of Bitcoin will inherently flatten and start to go down. But it won't, I mean, let's just say it just flattens. We don't know. But it's not going to continue to go up because as people think it goes up, they hoard it. It's the weirdest thing that people don't get this. Anyway, that's the thing with Robert Kiyosaki, man. Don't buy a house, rent a house, and instead buy Bitcoin. I'm not saying he said that. I don't know. I just don't care. But the charlatans, I'm not saying he's one. Not saying he's one, but man, the charlatans, they just, whatever is popular of the moment, they grasp and they just develop websites and sales pitches to remove you from your money. It just freaking pisses me off. And I've said a million times at Sunday, does that mean stocks are the only way to go? No, but your house is for sure. Your house is the way to go. Ownership of a home not only is with the American dream, that is not with a mortgage, by the way. Ownership of the home is your safest investment you can make because you're investing in imputed income and you're investing in shelter. And as long as you have those two things, yes, you got property taxes, I grant you. But as long as you have imputed income, that means money I don't need to make in order to pay for my rent. And as long as you got shelter, you're halfway to winning the battle. I'll see you.